Sarah, in our conversation now, in reports that I've read, the big takeaway is the seriousness of this indictment. I mean, he was dealing with highly sensitive information, highly sensitive national information, and that could have had the potential to really be compromised. And I'm curious, what is the likelihood that we could see a former president facing prison time?
Um, so it just depends. If he is reelected, the likelihood decreases significantly. That's because any sentence could possibly be held in abeyance, is the legal terminology, which essentially means delayed. And if he is reelected, it gives him additional mechanisms to, like I said, evade or even erase the charges. He could pardon himself. If the case is still ongoing and he has yet to be convicted or acquitted, then the Justice Department could halt the case. They have a long-running policy of not prosecuting sitting presidents. Now, the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General, can decide to continue with an investigation under, quote, extraordinary circumstances. However, Trump also, as president, has the authority to fire the attorney general and appoint them with a replacement pending Senate confirmation of his choosing. So if he is elected and the case has yet to conclude by that time, like I said, many mechanisms for him to get out of these charges. So in the Manhattan criminal case, legal experts have said that it's probably unlikely that he would face jail time just for a first-time offender, and given the nature of the charges. But it will be interesting to see over when the indictment is unsealed, how experts interpret the seriousness of the charges and what his possible sentence could be. But also, as I mentioned, one more thing earlier in our conversation, that the highest penalty for two of the seven charges that he is expected to face is a maximum of 20 years in prison. So.
And what you're saying, it sounds like even more hinges on the 2024 election, but that's down the road. What can we expect next?
So Trump will appear in a Miami area federal court on Tuesday at 3 p.m. There are calls for the Justice Department or the judge, rather, to unseal the indictment as soon as today. Mike Pence called for that, and there's a lot of chatter that they would be inclined to do that, so Trump's team cannot create some narrative that could possibly influence a potential jury in the case. So again, typically an indictment is unsealed when the defendant appears in person in court for the first time. He will probably voluntarily surrender himself. His legal team has the ability to arrange that with the court, as he did in the Manhattan criminal case. But yes, Tuesday is what we're all really waiting for, to see him appear in federal court and the unsealing of this indictment, so we can see the specific charges and the evidence that the Justice Department has gathered.
Sarah, there's a lot to come, a lot to unpack down the road. And as this story unfolds, I really hope you come back on and break it down for us like you always do. Sara Dorn, thanks for joining me.